So that guy I met on eHarmony? Yeah. We're out together last night and I step off a curb and snap, heel breaks right off my shoe.
Oh no.
So I say, hell with it, take them off so I'm barefoot, and you'll never guess.
What?
He leans over, takes off his shoes and socks, and now we're both...
You're joking.
Amazing, right?
At eHarmony, you'll find someone you can be yourself with. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up for eHarmony today.
Finding someone that understands you is hard because you're human, and there's a lot of different humans out there. eHarmony helps you find someone you can be yourself with. You think no one would understand mourning a plant like it's a loved one, or singing made-up songs to your dog, but that's the type of person eHarmony helps you find. Someone who makes you feel seen, heard, and understood. Get started today on eHarmony. Get who gets you.
How do you feel about uncertainty? Have you thought much about your relationship to the unknown? Did you know that your tolerance for and ability to constructively relate to uncertainty can radically alter the quality of your life in your 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond? You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 155, Uncertainty Affects How You Age. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hey, my friend, and welcome to another episode. I'm so happy you're listening in, and I hope you're having a great day today. How is your sun exposure strategy? Did you come up with a standard of practice strategy of when and what kind of sunscreen to use so that you don't have to think about it or redecide every time you're going out to the outdoors? Some sunscreen can significantly affect your endocrine functioning, so mindlessly putting them on every day can alter your biochemistry. Have you read the book Stuart Little by E.B. White? It brings back many happy childhood memories for me. I love that book. I've been cleaning out my parents' house, the house where I grew up, so I've been feeling a little bit overwhelmed with childhood memories lately, but I love the imagination of having an intelligent, anthropomorphic mouse friend. If you haven't read it, it's about a little boy mouse who gets adopted by a human family and the adventures he has. If you have read it, do you remember the ending? I love that book, and I couldn't really remember it either. E.B. White later said that the ending of Stuart Little plagued him. Quote, "Not because I think there's anything wrong with it, but because children seem to insist on having life neatly packaged," he wrote. "My reason for leaving Stuart in the midst of his quest was to indicate that questing is more important than finding, and a journey is more important than the mere arrival at a destination. This is too large an idea for young children to grasp, but I threw it to them anyway. They'll catch up eventually." End quote. Our brains are pretty amazing. We know that they can do way more cool things than even the coolest supercomputer. One of the things they do without our conscious awareness is recognize patterns. Being able to do so is tremendously valuable. It contributes to our intuition and is one of the things that has given us a big evolutionary edge. Problem solving is largely about pattern recognition, so it makes sense that pattern recognition feels good to us. It's important for our survival. Neurologist Robert Burton has shown that our brains reward us with some feel-good dopamine when we recognize and complete incomplete patterns. It feels really good to clear up ambiguity. You know the feeling, it's that aha moment. That's your pattern recognizing reward. Feels good, right? I love a good aha moment. It's so satisfying. Remember Stuart Little and aha moments, because we're going to come back to them in just a minute. When you make a choice to age at an elite level, there are lots of uncomfortable things you'll need to make part of your life in order to end up in your 80s and 90s with strength, power, endurance, and independence. The good news is that whether those uncomfortable things are unpleasant and torturous or not comes solely from the way you choose to think about them. You can decide whether you learn to love them or continue to feel plagued by them. You also know what I say a lot because it's true. Choose your hard. Choose your discomfort. Standing up from your desk chair every 20 minutes when you'd rather not. Going for a walk when you're tired at the end of the day. Chopping vegetables. Going to bed when you'd rather keep watching. Checking the air quality. Refusing to eat cheap, easy, convenient, and inexpensive food. Taking the time to ensure that you move your body in its proper alignment patterns, and on and on. They can be hard, and you know what else is hard? Suffering the deteriorating effects of gravity deprivation. Managing the metabolic disease that's slowly killing you and increases your chance of catastrophic health crises like heart attack, stroke, cancer, and dementia. Not thinking as clearly as you used to. Having limited mobility and chronic pain. So choose your hard. I also feel very, very strongly that you can learn to truly love those hard things that will make your life more enjoyable in the future. You can come to genuinely enjoy the process of taking the less convenient path. You can have fun now doing those things and have fun later when you reap all the benefits. It's a beautiful thing. We can get you there. I would love to help you. One of the uncomfortable and unpleasant things that I have not yet come to love, but I believe will make our lives better if we do, is uncertainty. How do you feel about it? I hate it, and I've been dealing with a lot of it for the past couple of months, and it's driving me nuts. The study at the University of Utah, where I went to school, showed that I'm not alone. Professor T. Nguyen showed that people hate uncertainty so much that we'd prefer punishment. He had participants play a computer game where they clicked rocks on a computer screen. The rock would overturn and reveal whether there was a virtual snake hiding under there or not. It was completely unpredictable. If there was a snake, the participants got a painful electric shock. If not, no shock. As the study subjects clicked, their stress levels were monitored by pupil dilation, skin sweat, and asking how they felt. The players were significantly more stressed the more uncertain they were about whether they were going to get shocked. When they were more confident that they would be painfully shocked, they were less stressed. Professor Nguyen's conclusion was that knowing we're going to get punished is less stressful than not getting punished, but being uncertain about it first. That seems true, right? It's that just get it over with kind of feeling. Uncertainty can also make us do some illogical things. In the 1940s, research by psychologist B.F. Skinner ran out of treats for his lab rats when they hit their treat lever, so he started giving them treats at unpredictable intervals. He assumed that they'd get bored or bummed out at not getting their predictable rat treat. The opposite happened. The rats developed a near obsessive drive to hit the lever. They loved the lever way more when it gave them unpredictable rewards and fewer rewards overall than when it gave them a sure thing. Weird, right? Researcher Thomas Zental was fascinated by this counterintuitive finding, so he made an experiment where pigeons could play one of two games. They could get 15 units of their favorite food every other time they pecked a light, so 50% of pecks led to food, or in game 2, they could get 20 units of food after an unpredictable number of light pecks, averaging around 5, so 20% of their pecks led to food. The math shows that it's way more logical to play Game 1, where 100 pecks nets you 750 units of food. Game 2 would net you 400 units of food for 100 pecks. Different people and different animals have different personalities and preferences, but 96.9% of the pigeons chose Game 2. He said the same phenomenon is seen in cockroaches, monkeys, rats, mice, and other birds. Some will choose the gambling game even if the predictable game will give them more than 700% more food. If you're certain you'll get the reward, it's kind of nice. But if you're unsure, then you're so excited that it happens that you'll make suboptimal decisions. It's part of the scarcity loop that Michael Easter describes so well in his book, Scarcity Brain. Uncertainty can lead to irrationality. But why does uncertainty feel so bad? I think different people have different tolerances for it, but I know I hate it. It's stressful and uncomfortable to be uncertain. It makes evolutionary sense to be certain that you know what you have, what you need, and what's going to happen in the future. But as Michael Easter says, modern life is one big circus of uncertainty. Yikes. So if that's true, Wouldn't we be more likely to thrive in this circus if we're good at living in uncertainty? If we enjoyed the unknown? This whole time I kept hearing Idina Menzel in my head. Into the unknown. Into the unknown. That's the only part of that song that I even know at all. Oh boy. So here are some of the ideas I've collected from people who are way smarter than I am of how to use venturing into the unknown and improving our relationship with uncertainty to create a better future. Hey, I just wanted to quickly interrupt and say good for you for being here listening to a podcast about improving your biological age relative to your chronological age. Have you ever thought about slowing the biological aging of your skin? If you heard my episode 55 about senescent cells, then you know that the accumulation of these undead cells accelerates all of the problems of aging. Well, now there's a topical supplement you can put on your skin that reduces the accumulation of senescent cells in your skin. This reduces wrinkles, but also all other skin conditions caused by thinner, weaker, drier skin. It also reduces the formation of age spots and increases collagen and hyaluronic acid production within your skin. It's a peptide called OS01, and it's in a product called OneSkin. I use it every day on my face and neck, and I've noticed a big difference. I would say my skin is more moisturized, but that's not a good enough description because it's not like when you put moisturizer on, but your skin is still dry underneath. It's the exact opposite. The topical supplement isn't greasy at all, but my skin is plumper and healthier from the inside out. I'm a big fan. If OneSkin sounds like something you'd like to try, there's a link in the show notes to get you $20 off. All right, back to the episode. First of all, remember that Robert Burton teaches that our brains reward us with some feel-good dopamine when we have an aha moment. It feels way better than uncertainty feels. He also says that we don't need to be accurate or correct, just certain. See the problem there? He says that, quote, because we are compelled to make stories, we are often compelled to take incomplete stories and run with them. Even with a half story in our mind, we earn a dopamine reward every time it helps us understand something in our world, even if that explanation is incomplete or wrong, end quote. Yikes. I think it's so good to know, though. Brené Brown explains it so well when she says, in the absence of data, we will always make up stories. It's how we're wired. The need to make up a story, especially when we're hurt, is in our biology. Meaning making, by default, is the need to make up a story that feels familiar, makes sense, and offers us insights into how best to self-protect. She also brilliantly says, what do we call a story that's based on limited data and imagined data and blended into a coherent and emotionally satisfying version of reality? A conspiracy theory. Normal people are prone to replace missing information with something false that they believe to be true. She calls them lies honestly told. Wow. Do you ever honestly tell lies? Probably. Don't worry. Brené says conspiracies and confabulations are everyday human issues. We all do it. The trick is to try to recognize it more often because conspiracies and confabulations can be destructive over time. Our stories feel good because recognizing and completing a pattern feels good. Being certain feels good, even if we're not correct. Choosing to feel uncertain makes us feel vulnerable. It's a brave and conscious and scary choice, but one that opens up so many more possibilities for our future. The possibilities for your future in your 60s, 70s, and 80s are much more expansive when you make the brave, conscious choice to feel uncertain. That uncertainty might help you get to the truth. A lot of the things we and other people are certain about aging might be conspiracies and confabulations, lies honestly told. If that's true, what do you want to do next? Remember those gambling addict pigeons? They're driven by uncertainty in a different way that also makes their life worse. They're willing to be rewarded by up to 700% less food for their efforts because they're obsessed with uncertainty. I found this so interesting. Thomas Zental, the pigeon researcher, said that in the experiments, the pigeons were kept in small cages and the numbers and health data all showed that they had adapted well and were healthy and living good pigeon lives. You know, obsessive compulsively pecking lights to get them random amounts of food. But when he put them in large cages with other pigeons that had different ledges and opportunities to fly and required socializing and was more like their wild habitat, they started choosing game one, not the gambling game, way more often. Isn't that so interesting? Apparently, there's a model called the optimal stimulation model. It says that animals and humans have a level of stimulation that we prefer. When our interest level gets below that, we search for stimulation. If pigeons have an alternative form of stimulation in the form of social interaction, opportunities to fly, perches to explore, it reduces the likelihood that they will choose the gambling game. The pigeons realized that they had enough and were fulfilled by what they had, and they craved less. I think that's so fascinating. I've heard a few people prove this with research, that the opposite of scarcity is not abundance. It's enough. Finding a way to set up your environment or other aspects of your life so that you can purposefully recognize enoughness naturally removes the compelling drive of uncertainty. When we know we have enough and we are enough, we're not victim to all the advertising and other messaging that compels us to act like those crazy light-pecking pigeons, doing more and more and more only to be rewarded with less. Playing the wrong game. How much better will your future be if you play the right game for the next 4 decades? In his awesome book, Creativity, Inc., Ed Catmull says that the only way to live a creative life is to balance the known and the unknown. He says that the allure of safety and predictability is very strong, but a creative life requires engaging in activities whose outcomes and payoffs are not yet apparent. The most creative people are willing to work in the shadow of uncertainty. What do you think? Are you willing to work in the shadow of uncertainty? Sounds like a scary shadow to me, but I can also see how it's a shadow that could make my life better than I even have the ability to imagine. Ed Catmull uses this metaphor of a door. He talks a lot about certain things that happened during the making of his Pixar movies. So the door he says to picture, in my mind, is definitely a Monsters, Inc. door of some kind. So he says, imagine this door. I recommend imagining a Pixar door of some kind for the full effect. On one side of the door is everything we see and know. It's the world as we understand it. On the other side is everything we can't see and don't know. Unseen problems, unexpressed emotions, and unrealized possibilities so innumerable that imagining them is inconceivable. He says it's not an alternate reality, but something even harder to fathom, that which has not yet been created. The goal is to place one foot on either side of the door, one grounded in what we know and what we're confident about, the other in the unknown, where things are murky, unseen, and uncreated. People who fear that side of the door crave stability and certainty, so they keep both feet planted in what they know, believing that if they keep repeating what's known to work, they'll be safe. He says it feels rational, but no matter how intensely we desire certainty, we should understand that something will eventually come unbidden through that door. Some uplifting and inspiring, and some disastrous. Some people are better able to handle the unknown. They engage with the problems of science. They embrace the complexities of visual or written expression. They are invigorated by uncertainty. That's because they believe that through questioning, they can venture across the threshold of that door, the Monsters, Inc. door. Ed Catmull says that other people venture into the unknown with little awareness of what they've done. Having stumbled into greatness once, they're not eager for another trip into uncertainty because their past successes make them wary of future unknowns. Then they too become the type of people who try to just repeat what they did before over and over. The key is to step one foot on the other side of that threshold on purpose, to be willing to have one foot in and one foot out, to remove the hidden barriers of misconceptions and emotions that are keeping both our feet on the safe side of the door without us realizing it. I invite you to imagine this Monsters, Inc. door clearly. If you're not driving or hiking or something, close your eyes for a few seconds and imagine the door. Imagine this side of the door, the safe side. What's beautiful about this side of the door? What does it feel like here? Then imagine the door opening. On the other side is the unknown. What's beautiful out there? It really helps me to think of what Ed Catmull said. It's not just an alternate reality, it's something that hasn't been created yet. So what's beautiful out there? What does it feel like to step one foot on that side of the door? I like thinking of uncertainty that way, as something that hasn't been created yet, because then I feel like I have a role in it. I belong there in some way, rather than just uncertainty as in this could all go wrong. That might not work. That thing could fall apart. Maybe nobody will want this. This thing could go away. That process won't work anymore. All that uncertainty is true, but feels different when you combine it with the things that are yet to be created by me and by you. Pretty exciting. The key to everything really is to still take action, even in the face of uncertainty. And it feels easier when you feel like a creative contributor to this circus of uncertainty that we all live in. I know we've all heard a million times that the only constant is change. We could add uncertainty to that too. Ed Catmull says, challenges will always emerge, mistakes will always be made, problems will always need solving, and our work will never be done. But when you think of it all as a way to create the future, it's kind of exciting. Ed says that in order to keep a creative culture vibrant, we must not be afraid of uncertainty. Yeah, okay, easier said than done. But then he says, we must accept it just as we accept the weather. I think that's another great analogy. It goes back to what we talked about just 3 weeks ago in episode 152. Confidence is trust in our own ability to handle whatever comes up. I don't watch the news at all, and I rarely check any kind of newsy information, including the weather. I have no idea what the weather's going to be like tomorrow or next week or next month. Even if I did check the weather, I wouldn't really know either. But I'm not constantly afraid of living my life or going outside or making plans. I know that if dark clouds roll in, I can put on a rain jacket or bring an umbrella. If I'm planning something specific, I can collect the best data available from weather.com and plan accordingly. But I know things might change. Maybe it will get crazy windy and I'll have to change my plans so as not to get a bunch of dirt in my eyes. Maybe my family of 5 will have to sleep all night in our 5-passenger car in a parking garage in Rifle, Colorado, as we have done. That's okay. I'm good at accommodating the weather because I don't have a choice. And guess what? We don't really have a choice when it comes to uncertainty either. But we do have a choice in how we respond to it. Thinking we should be able to change something we have no control over doesn't help. Being prepared with a snow shovel, rain poncho, or big sun hat does. Or one of those cooling towels. Do you have one? I hate being hot, so those are awesome. I might always be looking for some shade. You might always be looking for some sunshine. Both are fine because both are making the best of the circumstances as they are. Staying inside 365 days a year because we know what the weather will be like in there is easier and much more comfortable than venturing across the threshold into the unknown of the outdoors. But ease isn't the goal. Actually living is. If we want to actually live, we need to interact with the world as it is. We might get mud on our shoes, but it's the only way to feel the wind in our hair and the sun on our face and smell flowers and catch butterflies and crunch through fallen leaves and make snow angels and roll down hills and find pictures in the clouds. The best way to have confidence in your ability to drive in a blizzard is to have experience driving in a blizzard, right? How can you gain a little more experience dealing with situations of uncertainty? Are there small risks that you can take? How do you envision living a life with one foot on the safe and certain side of the threshold and the other on the unknown side? Remember that the unknown side of the doorway is yet to be created. While it's more dangerous in terms of not knowing what to expect, it's also more magical than anything you currently have the capacity to imagine. How cool is that? Don't forget to question your aha moments and the stories that you tell yourself. Being certain feels good, but it doesn't mean that you're right. Being uncertain feels unsettling, but if you're willing to sit with it, you might open a lot more possibilities for your future. Also, how can you gain more of a sense of enoughness in your life? When we feel like we're enough and we have enough, uncertainty doesn't drive us to do crazy things for the sake of more. Lastly, don't forget what everyone's favorite little adopted mouse is trying to teach us. Satisfaction doesn't come from being certain what the outcome will be. The journey is far more important than the destination. Questioning is more important than finding. Insisting on knowing the outcome ahead of time is like quitting the journey. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope we can find ways to embrace more uncertainty together in the future, because I know it will produce more innovative lives for us in our 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. Remember that your unknown future is waiting to be created. Next week, we're going to talk about a healthy bacteria superfood that you will enjoy eating too. Until then, put one foot on the other side of the Monsters Inc. door and don't be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.